Hey everyone, it's Scott again and welcome to the XFed Homestead. Here I am in the kitchen because it's that time of year where tomatoes are falling off the vine, and I've got 12 tomato plants out there in the garden, and it has given me some pretty incredible tomatoes. So now it's time to put them up, as they say, and today we're going to can tomatoes. So I'll show you how to do what's called hot canning, and that's canning in a boiling hot water bath. But first, let me go over the steps involved in canning. First, you have to wash the fruit that you're going to can. In this case, we've got a number of different tomatoes. We've got a nice celebrity tomato. We've got some Amish paste tomatoes. I think we even found some Sun Gold little cherry tomatoes in here, which I may not can, but who knows, it may add to the flavor. So after you wash these, you have to core them and take the core out of the tomato, and then you blanch them in hot water. And what that does is help take off the skin. And once you blanch them to take off the skin, you throw them in a cold water bath, and that will really help take the skin off. After that, it's time to cut them up, and you can cut them up into any kind of size that you want, any blend that you want of different kinds of tomatoes, or stay with all the same tomato. It's entirely up to you. I like chunky tomato sauce, so I'm going to cut them up kind of chunky. And after we cut them up, we'll fill up the jars, and then we'll fill up the jars, put lids on them, and then put them in the hot water bath to sterilize. And once that's done, we'll take them out, and they'll be ready for putting on the shelves. So you can display them if you want, or hold them in a cool, dark place. I like to keep them in the pantry down in the basement in my house, and take them out whenever we need tomatoes. So that's what we're going to do today. So let's get busy. Okay, now these are all washed. I'll put them on the counter here, and then we'll start coring. Let me get another bowl so that I can throw the waste product in there. And to core, just grab the paring knife by the tip. So don't try to core like this. You'll end up stabbing your own hand eventually once you start doing them. Figure out how deep you want to go. Put your hands at that level, and then from there you can use your thumb and your outside knuckle to guide the knife, and then just take out the core. This is a big one. If you see any other marks that you want to get rid of, just take them out, and there you go. There's a little more green stuff in here. I'm going to take that out because I don't want that in my sauce. So I'll dig a little bit deeper. It's not exactly surgical, but there we go. I had to take a little extra, but now it's cored, and I can then take these and blanch them. So let's keep going with these. It's going to take a while. We've got a lot of tomatoes to do, so you just got to get into the zen of coring and just move it along. Now I'm done. So the next step, once we're done coring, is to blanch them in the hot water. So let's make sure that's ready. One of the things that you can do when you're done cutting, I have a bowl here of scraps. I'm going to take these to the chickens. They'll love them and enjoy them. There are some other ones, a few tomatoes here that I found that I'll put in the compost bucket, and just didn't quite make the grade for me. And those will go in the compost pile. Now, one of the keys to canning is to stay organized and organize things in a pattern that you can do over and over again, like an assembly line. So in this case, now that the tomatoes are cored, I have them stacked up to the left of the stove, and I'm going to move from left to right. I'm going to take them using a slotted spoon that's right here. I'm going to dip them into the hot water, do several at a time, and then take them out and put them into an ice water bath. And then once they're cooled down in the ice water, I'll transfer them to this next bowl down here so we can bring them back to the center island, to the cutting board, and chop them up in the next step. So let's start the process. Take the tomato, put it in the boiling water. Be careful, take your time. You can put in 6 or 8 for about 30 seconds. You should start to see the skins coming off. Now, putting things in hot water and boiling water for just a few minutes or a short amount of time is called blanching. And you can do this with vegetables as well when you're preparing them for the winter. If you have an abundance of broccoli, you can blanch it, then put it in the freezer, and it'll keep for when you need it over the winter. You can start seeing the skin get wrinkly. I'm going to turn up the boil a little more. But here, look at this. You can start seeing the skin wrinkle here on the sides. You see that wrinkling? That means the skin's coming off. And now I'm going to put it in the ice bath. Hey, that looks pretty good. We got 2 nice bowls of blanched tomatoes, and now we have to take the seeds out of them. So the easiest way to do that is to take this once it's skinned. Take the skin off, just rolls right off. And then you cut it along the equator. So cut it horizontally like this, between the core end and the bottom. So just cut it in half like that. And you'll see all the seeds in there, right? So then you can just squeeze them out. Remember, it's the seeds and the jelly that surrounds the seeds that can give a bitterness to your sauce or your dish when you prepare it. So we want to take those out now, so we're just left with the meat of the tomato. And remember, a tomato is 95% water, so a lot of water is going to come out during this process and through the canning process as well. You'll see it in the end result, but it's fine. That's what a tomato is made of. So let's get rid of this part here. Let me grab a bowl that I can squeeze into. And there. So now we're left with the meat. Now some people want to scoop it out with their fingers. That's all right. I think squeezing it gives the best results. You're not going to get all of it, and that's okay. The world isn't perfect. So take those seeds out and put the meat to the side. Now this part of the canning process is probably the longest, most tedious, and maybe most boring. But you got to stick with it. You're going to get messy. It's a messy job. Maybe that's why you should wear a red shirt. Okay, now that everything's cleaned off, I have the flesh from all the tomatoes. This is the third bowl of juice that I've gotten out of there with seeds. And I gave this to the chickens earlier, and they went crazy on it, so they really enjoyed it. So nothing goes to waste. I can feed this to them later as well, and they'll just eat it right up. So no waste going there. But now, these are essentially, now that I've crushed them, they're crushed tomatoes. But I can take them down a little bit more into chunks. And so I'm just going to softly chop them up a little bit. And make them a little more smaller and a little more palatable for us and how we do our cooking. And then we'll get to the canning. So all you have to do is just grab a bunch of this and just get it to where you want it. Now you can chop it fine if you want, but it's going to break down in a sauce very nicely. A couple of larger pieces. Now I like to use a chef's knife. And I like this kind with the rounded tip, if you can see that, rather than the long pointed one. There's a lot of metal out there that I just don't use on my cutting board. So I like this one. And when you hold a chef's knife, hold it with your knuckle out and with your thumb on the top. You see my thumb there and my knuckle on the side over here? That helps keep a really good firm grip on it and helps to maintain control of the knife. You want to make sure that it's doing exactly what you want. You don't want it to develop a mind of its own. The other thing is you should use your fingers in your supporting hand to support the food, but also curl your knuckles under so that this broad surface of the knife rubs against your knuckles and this part of your finger here. So what you can do is that as long as you keep your fingers curled under, you're never going to get cut. So that's why you see chefs, they're chopping so quickly, because they can go up and down because they know they're not going to get cut. It's not a magic trick, it's just physics and it's just know-how. So hold your knife appropriately with your first knuckle here and your thumb at the base above the tang of the knife, this part of the knife, and you can ride it along to chop and make smaller chops especially. So I do that all the time. I rarely get cut. Usually it's when I'm not paying attention and I'm talking or doing something else that takes my attention away from what I'm doing, and that's when you get hurt. Now I'm going to finish this and chop all these up to the size I want. I've got the water heating up now for the canning part of the process, and we'll get to that right after I'm done here. So I'll keep going. Well, now we're just about there. We have the meat of our tomato here. Actually looks like chopped up watermelon right now. And I have my jars over here. The water's boiling over on the stove. I just turned it down so you can hear me. And I'm going to take one of these funnels and put it here. But before we start putting the meat in, we have to have some kind of way to preserve the tomatoes for the long term. And so we're going to put salt and lemon juice in. You can put ascorbic acid in there, and that will also help as a preservative. But I have lemon juice. I'd like to use lemon juice. That's what I'm going to do. So take the top off of this. And since I need a tablespoon of salt in each, grab my tablespoon. And this is pink Himalayan salt. So, now, as far as the lemon juice goes, I've seen videos where people say 1 tablespoon of lemon juice will do for quart jars, but the Colorado State University Extension School, which is more of an expert than me, says that 2 tablespoons of lemon juice should be used. I'm sure either would probably be okay, but depending on how much lemon juice, I'm going to go with 1 in each, and then I'll put my second in, just to be sure. I'm pretty sure I have enough. But now that I've done the dry ingredients, I can do this. Now we can start ladling in or spooning in the tomatoes. So let's do it. You're going to want to fill these up, but leave an inch of room at the top. So about to the bottom, from here, this distance, once it touches the bottom of the funnel, it should be about right. And those look great. Okay, so I got a half dozen nice looking jars of tomatoes. I'm going to put them on this. And I got them all set together. And I'll put the tops on. Now this little item you saw me poking the air pockets with also doubles as a magnet. So I can take these jar lids and put them right on top of every can. As well, they're magnetic for the lids as well, but I will need that kind of help. Now, I've got my 6 lids on there. And now I just tighten them down. When you tighten these jars, just hand tight. You don't have to crank down on them. Just get them hand tight. They're going to loosen up once they're in the boiling water. And you're going to have to tighten them down a little bit more. So get them hand tight. All right, gone once around. Now we can lift the whole thing up and put it over in the boiling water. Now if you spread this out, they'll stay up top here. You can use that when you pull them out. But then you lift them right down in there. And they'll sink and your water level will rise. And if you got it right, it won't overflow your pot, which is critical. Most pots I found, you fill them up to about here before that top level. If you can see on the side of the pot here, it's kind of graduated levels, goes up and out, kind of like an upside down wedding cake. But if you get it up to this top level and then put your jars in, it'll reach right now it's about 1.25 inches from the top. So just perfect. It's covering everything, and we are going to put it in there to boil for 40 minutes. Set our timer and we'll come back. Okay, our timer's up. It's been 40 minutes. They've been boiling away here. The cans have been in their hot water bath. And so I'm just going to carefully reach in, try not to get scalded, and grab our cans out. I'm just going to set them up halfway so I can get a good grip on them. They automatically will hold right there if you just spread the handles with this particular pot. And here they are. They all look pretty good right here. We'll just let them cool down, and then we're going to tighten up the caps a little bit. Well, my canning's all done now. I finished up, I put them on the counter, and since they're a little bit hot still, I've used this particular device, which is just like an old-fashioned ice clamp that you used to put on blocks of ice. It's specially formulated to hold the can, and as you squeeze the grip, you can hold it up. You'll see that there's a little bit of space here, that some of the tomatoes are kind of floating. And if I get out of the way, a little sun can pass through, like on this one, from the window behind me, and you can see some space at the bottom. Don't panic, it's okay. This is, tomatoes are 95% water, so you're gonna get water in here, even though we drained it. We squeezed out the water when we cut them over through the equator and then squeezed them. They still have tons of water in them, and that's all right. When these cool down, I'm probably just going to give them a little shake upside down, and that will sort itself out. So don't panic, it's fine. These are still a little hot, so I'm going to take a rag and I'm going to give them just a little bit of a twist. I said before that they loosen up a little, or you gain more space to turn them. Just a little 1/8 of a turn, not that much. That doesn't need anything right there. A little 1/8 of a turn. Okay. So these are all look fantastic. It looks like they're ready for the cupboard or the pantry or the larder, if we still use those terms. This is going to be great for sauce. I was thinking of making a nice steak pizziola. Maybe I'll make a show on that sometime. But I hope you got something out of this video. I hope you learned something about canning. And this is a lot of fun for me. My wife's especially appreciative when I do these cooking type shows, because the kitchen ends up a little bit cleaner than it otherwise would have during the normal course of the day. So that's all I have here for you. Please like and subscribe. Let me know what your thoughts are and if you'd like to see more of this type of content. So for now, I'm Scott at the Homestead. We'll see you next time.